Well, I'd like to focus on 3 S words from our scriptures today, and also leaning into the parish mission that will start tonight and continue over the next 2 days. The first one is to see. Jesus speaks about seeing clearly. Second word is store. Jesus says that our heart is like a store. It can store up certain things. And the third word is silence. To see clearly. Wouldn't it be nice always to see clearly? So often we see through clouded vision, we're confused, we're not sure what the best path is to take, what decision to make in any certain circumstance. Sometimes when we see others, we don't see clearly. We don't see the presence of God in every human being. We see some as adversaries who are actually friends. We see some as friends who are actually adversaries. When we look at each other, it's also tainted by the experiences that we've had. We don't see clearly, but we can. And Jesus wants us to be able to see clearly. He gives us this very strange image in the gospel of not seeing clearly because we have a wooden beam attached to our eye. I don't know exactly how that balance is there, but it's got to be uncomfortable. What is that wooden beam hanging off of our eye? Well, of course we don't see clearly when that thing is going on. Where does that wooden beam come from? And how do we get rid of that thing? He says, remove the wooden beam from your eye, but he doesn't exactly give an instruction set on how to do that. Just says to do it. But he does give us another insight about where that wooden beam is coming from and what we might address. And he tells us to go into the heart. Now, it's maybe even a little stranger to think of the wooden beam growing out of our heart and coming out of our eye. But anyway, this is the anthropology of Jesus in the scriptures. He says, out of the fullness of the heart, he says, out of the good store in the heart we do good, out of the evil store in the heart we do evil. So he directs us to look inwards to the store. That's our second word. If we want to see, look to the store, that store in our hearts. It's interesting to think of our hearts as a storage place. What do we store up in our hearts? What's in there? And it's important for us to take stock of our store and look at what's in our hearts. What are we keeping there? Now, we do know the way that our heart affects our vision because we say things like, I was so angry, I was seeing red. Well, my anger isn't in my eye, my anger is in my heart, but it clouds my vision. We can store a lot of feelings in our hearts. Sometimes we get green with envy or we get blue in sadness. We know that what we're feeling in our hearts, the emotions that we store up there, can affect our vision. Sometimes we're immediately aware of those emotions. I know that I'm angry in this moment or sad in this moment or I'm envious, but sometimes we don't like those emotions and we stuff them somewhere. We numb them in different ways, we avoid them in different ways, and then they kind of come out sideways and they affect our vision. We have a hard day at work and then we take it out on our family, or we have a difficult thing going on in our life and it comes out in our workplace. We have these things that come out sideways if we're not taking stock of what's in the store of our hearts. So we store emotions there. We also can end up storing lies in our hearts. We have these words that sometimes someone spoke to us in a bad moment. Maybe it comes from a mother or a father or an uncle or an aunt or a teacher or a coach or a priest or a sister. We hear these words, especially when we're impressionable or we're in a vulnerable moment, and that word just lands there. You're useless. You're no good for anything. You'll never amount to anything. You can't do anything right. And what's said once to us has a way of sitting there in our hearts, and it keeps hitting us over and over again. Try harder. Do more. You don't measure up. And we can just get hit by those wounds, and it weighs us down. It affects the way that we see. We start to see everything through a negative light, and we start to look down on everything, and that affects the way that we see. So what do we do? How do we take stock of our hearts, first of all, and then how do we transform this situation? And Jesus gives us, again, this sort of double movement. One is that we need to clear out the store of evil things, the negative things, the negative feelings perhaps, or the words that are there, the lies that are there, to clear those out, but then we also need to fill it with good. And really important for that is our third word, silence. Silence has a way, first of all, of exposing the heart. When we immerse our hearts in silence, it's like putting a tea bag in hot water. It has a way of drawing some of those flavors out. If we had really good hearts, it would be really good tea. But we've got a few maybe stems and some other things going on. There are some bitter flavors maybe, but better for them to be drawn out. And silence has a way of drawing out that stuff from the heart that we can really take a look. What's happening there? What's going on in our heart? What are we experiencing right now? What are we struggling with? What's that word that keeps echoing again and again, that keeps bothering us? Why am I so agitated and restless? Why am I so frustrated? These kinds of things reveal themselves in silence. So we need silence to expose the heart, to take stock of the store of what's there. And then when we allow whatever it is to come up, this is really, really good news. No matter what is coming out of our hearts, Jesus wants it. He wants us to give it to him. He wants us to show it to him. He wants us to bring it to him. Our first impression might be, I could never say that to him. I could never show him that. That's so ugly. It's wrong. I know I'm not supposed to feel this way. I know I'm not supposed to think like this. Sometimes we should on ourselves that way, and we can press down. But Jesus wants it all. He is the God who loves us unconditionally. He is the God who knows the hearts of men and women. He is the God who sees and who loves. And the first thing to do is just to show it to him. And we just hold it out. And it's a beautiful thing to do in prayer, just to sit there with all our stuff and look to him. He's the one who can do something about it. Look, Jesus, look at these lies. Look at these heavy feelings. Look at this brokenness. Look at these wounds. Look at the way I'm suffering. Look at it. And Jesus does look at it, and he can take it from us. Really what he does is he embraces us right in it, takes us into his arms, and holds us close to himself, and he loves us in the midst of whatever it is. And then he starts to replace it. He starts to replace it with truth. I love you. I know you. I made you for good things. I can help you, and I'm with you. Trust in me. Come to me. Stay with me. Let me be with you. There's nothing that you and I together cannot handle. I'm here for you. And when we take that kind of time in prayer, allowing some silence to open up our hearts, having the courage to show it to Jesus, letting him clear it out and speak truth to us, our lives start to get transformed from within, and we start to see more clearly. Even looking at some of the dark things in the world, like war, or looking at the dark things in our lives, because many of us suffer from real evils in our lives badly and have suffered great things. But when we allow Jesus into that, he helps us to see it in a different way. He gives us a light of hope. He gives us a reason to believe that we can make it through. Like he said to St. Paul, even death is swallowed up in victory. Christ has won the victory, and he is greater than all of our enemies, and he can do it. He can carry us through. These are the kinds of things that we're going to open up tonight and in the next couple of days in the mission. I like to be real practical, and I like to really speak into our experience of prayer. I don't want to give you lofty theology that doesn't connect with your life. I'm a convert. I met Jesus when I was in college, especially through the scriptures, and I only know how to keep it real. So I hope that you will take the time for silence, for prayer. We'll be practical and actually have some time for prayer together in order to allow the scriptures, allow God's word to open up our hearts and to bring us peace. Because when our heart has been cleared of the evil store and filled with the good store, and we're able to see clearly, we're able to rest in silence, and we can know peace. Let us allow the Lord to do that even now as we worship him in this Holy Eucharist.